Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, this evening's video is another recap of Season 1, this time Session 11, of my AD&D First Edition Greyhawk campaign. So, from now on, I'm not going to continue saying I'm going to continue saying our campaign because it is indeed a campaign of all of us, and so that's an amendment that I'm certainly going to make in this presentation going forward, because after almost 13 weeks of playing together, we certainly have come together as a group of 10 players that just love AD&D First Edition, love the Greyhawk campaign setting, and we love our company. We love the company that we're keeping, and we're really enjoying the time that we have together. That is really the best way that I can describe what what happened in the last session. So I'm not going to go into details, but one of our members, Leah, she had a death in the family, and I found out about it prior to the game session, and I was perfectly willing to just say, listen, we're not going to play this week. But she really wanted to. She wanted to have an opportunity to just get things set real life aside for just a little bit, and just try to get through and hopefully gain something from a game session, just a respite, and an escape from just the unbelievable situation. So we had our game session. I intentionally made it very low key and just informational and such. I didn't want to make it a full length session either, and so if that's what this game brings to individuals, then that's what really I think we're here, doing, is just giving people a place where they can go and just close out the real world for a couple of hours, and whether that's a positive thing that you're doing, or just trying to, like I said, just trying to escape for a few hours. And if this game session had done that, then I'm so gratified that that's what it's done. So without further ado, let's just get into where the campaign is, and what the players actually discovered, and where it looks like they're going to go in the next session. So I am going to switch screens here, and as you probably know, they are in B1, the Search of the Unknown, and this is the upper portion of Quescaton, and all of the white now is what they have investigated. So they have essentially they had come up this flight of stairs, found here. Let me get my pointer here. So they came up through 30 earlier on, like 2 sessions ago, and they made their way up through, and you can't see my. They came up through, and they went to this door here, and then to this corner, and then once they got here, they knew where they were because they had encountered this previously. They formed up by this room, and then they had the main combat in the last session. This is where they combated the the guardian of Queskatan. That closed out the session. Now they picked up session 11. Now, they didn't do some portions of the previous session that they were kind of hinted to do and encouraged to do. And so there were some consequences that they're starting to piece together that, you know, they made some missteps. Let's just put it that way. So if you recall, if you watched the last episode, you'll know that they left their charmed and captured, effectively captured druid in room 11 here behind the secret door. They had spent close to 2 hours in this room here, between the combat and then the sorting through things and then sifting through some of the books and such. They had made some major discoveries. They had one hint to light an essence burner in this little brazier here, which they chose not to do at the time. And so they continued just searching through and looking for the prize that they were really sent in here to get. And they did discover the first book of that. At the time, they didn't realize that it was a 3-book set, but they got the first book, and it started giving them some hints about the nature of the magic user Kelligar, and it mentioned who his mentor or master was, and that was Kalb. They know from previous discoveries that Kalb was a very powerful archmage, probably one of the most powerful in the region, if not the world of Greyhawk. So they started to realize that this is a kind of a big deal. Whatever they're getting involved with, they came across several symbols, neither of which they really know what they are, and so that's something that they will further investigate. They learned about a traveling children's library, and they don't know whether that's just some kind of a random thing that was in the journal, or whether it has some kind of an importance, but it was mentioned in there, and that's like a little floating tidbit for them right now. So then they finally decided that they were going to recollect up the druid and then do a further search of the complex. That they were still under the impression at the time that they might still encounter different creatures. Now, some of the the other inhabitants of the stronghold. Now, some of the members were like, he's probably off and rallying up the troops and everything to turn against us, and they were thinking that perhaps he wasn't the one that was charmed, but he had charmed the magic user. That was what the belief was that perhaps he charmed the group's magic user, and this was all his manipulation. So and they were conjecturing this before they even turned around this corner to see that in fact the druid was gone. So they're kind of piecing together like, oh, that was a definite mistake. We should have either killed him or kept him with us or whatever. So they then start to, because they found a map, or pretty much a map of this floor, and so I started revealing more and more to them. Although some things were slightly altered anyway, they started realizing that there are some very strange patterns to the way that this space was utilized. So they started realizing that behind secret doors was always these like kind of pretty mundane storage rooms, and that's a kind of a strange thing. They were like, wow, you would think that treasure rooms and things like that would be protected by secret doors. Here they have casks of flour and stuff, and regular tools and those kinds of things are behind secret doors. So that was kind of weird, and they're trying to piece that together. They were also discovering that they were you know, very strange patterns of decoration throughout the place. And they started realizing that when they got into here, which is like a dining area. Across from it is kitchen. So in this dining area, they started seeing that parts of the walls were ornately carved with certain imagery, and other parts weren't. There were mismatchings of colors and such. There's a lounge in here, which and I'm going to forget who it was. It was maybe the ranger or I think it was the ranger that was like, hey, I want to make this my room because there's a tall, naked woman statue, huge marble statue in this room here. And the cleric, Mirador, I believe, was really interested in knowing, well, is there any, like, does he know any, religious significance of this statue? And at the moment it's still not to his knowledge, so but that might be something that he might look to investigate later on as well. They then continued on through. They discovered Rogan's private area, but this was completely ransacked and everything was taken away except for these huge tapestries that were, not very high value. The thief was going throughout this place and trying to evaluate, how much is this worth, or is it worth bothering with, or whatever. It looks like, and they started piecing together the idea that the whole upper floor, at least, has been abandoned, and they were called back to several weeks ago when when they surmised that there was a purge that took place where possibly the troglodytes had turned against the orcish servants and the kobolds that controlled mostly this area in and around, like the very entry areas was all part of a kobold's little group. It's too small to be called a lair, but they kind of infested these particular areas here. No signs of hobgoblins, which they knew the hobgoblins they encountered outside, and they found, the dead orcs, on the behind the structure. So, but they had not encountered any hobgoblins inside this, inside this place, other than when they first entered. So, when they encountered that large group of hobgoblins on the outside, they started thinking, well, maybe the hobgoblins have left as well. So all of this space has been abandoned as far as they know. And like you could see from the grade areas, they have not investigated yet. And they kind of saw this map anyway, so they know where it's at. I'm just doing this for the presentation purposes. They haven't gone into room 31, 32, and they haven't gone up into these cells, since then either. They had entered these three rooms actually, so I need to open up this corridor. So reveal area. They did investigate these spaces here. Oh, what did I do? Reveal area. There we go. So they did check out those. They eventually came down. Oh, I have to put the ping back on. They eventually came down and discovered a quarters of what they believe was at least a friend of Rogan, and Rogan referred to him as the captain of the guard. And they holed up in this room for the night because there was only one entrance in, and they wanted a safe space to, to basically congregate and be prepared to. It was either here or here now. It's only 2 days later. I'm forgetting exactly. Maybe it was here. It was here that they stayed the night in because there was only 3 secret doors to access it, and they felt that no one was really would be able to find those secret doors that easily. So they hold up here for the night, and then in the next session they're going to travel through. Now in this, one of these was a trophy room. This was like a strange room. 28 was a room that looked like it was a demonic ritual room. And again, this is going back to the this is going back to kind of the strangeness, and they started to question because in the trophy room there was certainly a the skin of a copper dragon, and they know that copper dragons are good aligned dragons, and but there's a room dedicated to demonic worship here, and they had orcish servants, and so they started to question whether or not Zelagar and Rogan were actually good intentioned individuals or heroes or whatever, because it's just very, very strange. Like everything that they've encountered in here kind of is like a mess. So like a just like a confusing, like hard to piece it together. So they're not quite sure where these two individuals stood on that spectrum of good and evil, and some of them actually conjectured that although they're probably just they were probably true neutral or just willing to move about, possibly chaotic neutral or something, just willing to do whatever needs to get done or to be done in order to advance their own agenda. So they still have a bunch of journals that they have to read through and and decipher. I will switch screens here. So they still have quite a bit that they have to learn about what's going on. They have the two additional journals now that goes along with that first one, but they're written in combinations of ancient languages and and Elvish and gibberish, and so they're going to probably have to use some spells like comprehend languages and potentially other spells in order to work out and learn as much as they can from those journals to know where they're going to go next. Now, one thing that the players started to talk about was keeping the stronghold under their control. All right, and so that was something that I was anticipating them looking to do. It's really part of what was intended, and it's why the campaign now is going to in season 2, which is about to start. Once they level up and everything, and they go for their next adventure, we're going to enter into season 2 because, like I said previously, the seasons are going to be based on the level bands, and every single player character is going to be level 3, some of them able to go to level 4 immediately following this closing of this adventure. So, and then the campaign will be AD&D First Edition, the Keepers of Questquatan campaign, because that's what the player characters as a group are going to start to become known as. All right, so they are the Keepers of Questquatan, the keepers of the ancient stronghold, once lost, now found, and all of the mysteries and secrets that are still tied into there that they still have to try to decipher. So really excited about it. Looking forward to Monday's game as always. I have such a dedicated group of 9 players, and glad that even when the sessions are just meant to be very low key and everything, we're still accomplishing a lot. We're still learning about each other a lot as far as how our characters are playing. The players are learning how to coordinate with each other a lot more as well, and and it's just been a great experience. So and I hope that they're all having a very similar experience. I think that they do, but hopefully Um, moving forward, they become a little bit more expressive now. There is one thing I told them that they're going to see, because they're going to start to realize, and I think they're starting to get the idea now, that the way that leveling works is that you need, as you're going higher up in level, according to AD&D first edition rules, you need an ever growing amount of gold pieces in order to actually pay for that. And they're starting to realize that that they run the risk of being experience points rich and gold coins poor. And so they might not have the money to level up, and so they might have to start looking into doing things on the side. And how do they earn money in the off time? And that's an important thing that's actually detailed in first edition AD&D, is that downtime, and what are all the costs of living in a town, and what are the taxes and the tithes and the duties and the expenses, and then what is the hiring hirelings to do certain things for the party. And now that they're potentially looking to take over a stronghold, they're going to have to look into that as well. So they suddenly realized that, hey, you know what, it's not just the main campaign that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to start focusing on earning money. And not all adventures along this adventure path that they're on is going to potentially lean towards money. There are sometimes much higher causes than that. And so that's going to open up for side quests that are specific towards the specific interest of the player characters, the individual player characters, but still serves a larger purpose for everybody involved, because treasure is, of course, shared equally, and they're very giving amongst them, amongst their group, and saying, hey, you know what, if you're short this, I will give up this for you so that you can advance and you can get your training. Or, oh, he was laid up and unconscious, but even though he didn't participate in the combat, and that's where we got most of this treasure, we're going to give equal shares across the board anyway. So these are the kind of camaraderie that they have developed amongst themselves, and so that's the kind of thing that I know that they'll continue to be engaged, even though the adventure isn't focused on them this time around. And I'm a fairly experienced dungeon master, so I'm a pretty good writer of adventures, and I know how to bring several different motives together into one mini adventure, so that more than one person can benefit from going on a particular adventure. And so that's just something that an experienced DM kind of knows how to do, that to maximize the reach of what you are writing, and to minimize the amount that you have to write. Because I'm not going to write 9 completely separate mini adventures, because that becomes a huge task. So instead, what I'm going to do is, hey, I have this adventure idea, and prompted mostly by the things that the players have said so far, and so now I'll be able to string some of those together and say, hey, well, here's a little piece of this story that's going to apply to you and you, but it's still your focus. But that's how I bring the players together, on these side quests where they all have a little bit of a stake involved. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. Recap. Please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and bottom line, Leah, thanks for making it. I hope the session helped you, and just look forward to our next session. that we can continue just supporting each other and moving on. All right. Thanks all for joining in. Have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there. And I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon. You'll have a great afternoon.